Hello everyone, I'm Can Çakmur. I'm a data scientist at Gram, and this is the second video of an analytics series we've been shooting. The first video I talked about where you should start with analytics, and in this one I'll be talking about feature selection. Feature selection is basically deciding on what you want to track in your application. It is a design process. You should be spending a lot of time on it, and the first thing I recommend is talking with your team. Because as a game analyst, I know everyone has an idea of what should be tracked in their application, but if you don't talk with your designer, if you don't talk with your producer, you can never know if they have a specific concern about the application. Depending on what you want to analyze, what you want to look at the application as the analyst, and depending on the feedback you got from the producer, your designer, make sure your events are generic so that it can answer all their questions as well. Another thing to keep in mind, I know a lot of analysts and BI people who want to track everything. I don't personally recommend that for a couple of reasons. First, it's going to be costly, and secondly, your query runtimes are going to be increasing. Of course, that doesn't mean that you should be tracking minimum amount of events. There's a fine balance. You shouldn't be tracking everything, but there are some specific stuff you have to track. It depends on the genre of the game, of course. For example, if your game is an in-app purchase game, you should be tracking everything related to store funnel, where they purchased, when they purchased, how long they played before they purchased your gems. If you have for example, if you have a premium currency in your application, you should also be tracking everything related to where they actually spent the currency, because those stuff are what you'll be trying to optimize later on. Also, one more thing. This doesn't really concern you if you have only one game you want to analyze, but if you're a studio with multiple titles, you also want to make sure your events between your other games are generic as well. For example, if you have a revenue event named revenue, make sure it's called revenue in your other titles as well, because you don't want to write different queries that does the same thing for different titles. It should be as generic as possible. I hope what I talked about have been useful for you. There is obviously a lot to talk about, a lot more to talk about, both about game analytics and feature selection. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and thanks for listening.